Starting.
We're starting right now.
Yeah.
Okay, hello everybody. We're starting right now.
Right now. Hey, welcome to S.A.L.T, Seeking a Living Truth, where Brett and Miranda and sometimes Aspen talk about things. Stuff. And while we're talking about stuff, Miranda's going to talk about stuff because I have to wait 30 seconds. Oh, wow, that was fast.
Okay,
we're on.
Okay,
I
we're
need to
talking about stuff. See, I brought a knife with me today. And so hang out and we shall discover why I brought the knife.
It
part of the illustration.
Yes, it is. Yes. What else is going on?
Look, I got a teeny tiny owie from the great big knife. Can you see it? Yeah. It hurt. It looked a lot bigger than that and bled. Well, a little. I had to wear a Band-Aid so I didn't bleed all over the kitchen, you know. But it was because I didn't listen to that little voice that said, you know, you probably shouldn't be doing that. So I know Brett has a story that he's going to share like that as well. And as soon as he's done typing words over there, has 30 seconds passed yet?
So Miranda was never on an improv team.
No, I wasn't. You know, I'm just like to the point. Well, except when I'm not. So, yes.
All right. I think we are shared around. There we go. All right. And here we go. So, yeah, we're going to do something we haven't done before. At least I don't think we've done it before. We're going to do an unboxing.
What's that, Brett?
I'm glad you asked. Yes, we're going to unbox. So we were at Hobby Lobby the other day, and I was looking for sweatshirts for the drama team. And as we passed by some of the aisles in Hobby Lobby, as they so often do, they scream 50% off. And so they had a whole shelf of really cool, a little electronic things that were 50% off.
Yeah, and, or like the things they say, 30% off all of the time.
All the time, yeah.
Just change your price tag and be done.
Yeah. So I like to get things, fun little quirky things for like the office, or to make stuff for students. And like we have, we bought the little donut hole makers and little donut makers, and we have a Twinkie maker.
Oh yes, the Twinkie maker and the cake pop makers.
Cake pop. The waffle bowl was not such a win. What was wrong with that one?
Did we send that one back?
No, it's over at the office. It had a broken handle on it.
Why did we send that one back?
Because when you open it, the steam
right.
burns your hand.
Was that one. Yeah. That was the worst design ever.
Yeah.
It had all kinds of good reviews on Amazon. That's why we picked it out. And yet, when you opened it, or when you touched the handle to open it, it was really hot and.
Yeah, brought back memories of my childhood back in the day with we had a big square waffle iron. It had the same problem. As soon as you opened it, when it's done, the heat, you would come and burn your hand. So apparently we haven't advanced far beyond technical design. We still burn our hands making waffles. Anyway, we found, I was going to buy it's if you can see this, it's a, I'll read, Nostalgia. That's Italian. Nostalgia. It's like fragile. Nostalgia.
Hope no Italians are watching this, Brett.
Nostalgia electric s'mores maker. Or, if you're from France, it's Appareil Electrico pour s'mores. I'm international.
Or not.
So, it's a little s'mores maker. And so we thought we would open it up and try it out. And so here we go, opening the box. Oh, and they're like, if you ever watched the little box, and it's packaged so nicely, and it's in a box. Like, get over it, it's in a box. All right, let's see, we pull this out.
I don't think I've ever watched an unboxing. No.
Yeah, that used to be all the rage.
Oh, these are the things that must go around it. Well, we don't need those things because we have the lovely plate that Aspen set up.
Oh, we do.
Oh, well, would you look at those fancy little
Special
twigs.
forks, twigs.
That you use to stick your marshmallow on.
Yes.
And toast it over this, little hot plate, basically.
Yeah, so here's the interior. It looks like it's a little like electric stove eye. Da-da-da. And it's labeled s'mores. There's an on and off button.
You know, for that, you could just buy a hot plate.
For what we're about to do, we could have gotten a lighter and done it, but yeah. All right, so
How long is it going to take to toast a marshmallow over that?
for sure.
Because personally, the best marshmallows are those that catch on fire.
No, they're not.
Yes,
That's
they are.
the worst.
No.
That's called char.
Yeah, yum. It's the only way to eat a marshmallow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You and Aspen.
And then you take that charred part off the outside, a little gooey on the inside, and you eat that, and then you burn it again.
This is y'all
until
are
you get down
wrong,
to the very end.
Wrong. It's golden brown on the outside, completely and evenly golden brown. That's the best.
No, the completely evenly golden brown would be the graham crackers we have over there.
Apparently this is the lid.
Oh, makes you feel like you're out camping. Is that it?
Yes, and then for those who are intellectually challenged, caution: hot surface. Do not touch.
Oh, don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Colby would have burnt his hand on this. All right, and then I guess we plug it in. I have previously had Aspen run us an extension cord, and this way, have that. I'm just totally guessing how to do this. Here's our nice plate. Yes, Aspen.
You might want to turn it on.
Well, we're waiting till we present the plate. Cause my hand was going to be there. Oh, I don't want to burn my hand.
There, it's on now.
What do you?
I pushed the red button.
Yeah, that's
even I could figure that out. There's one red button.
So we have all s'mores material: the marshmallows, the graham crackers. I don't know what these are, but they're chocolate.
They're chocolates.
And I don't know why she's got these on here.
They're chocolates too.
You can't put those on.
No, but you can.
No.
It looks bonita.
Bonita, huh? All right. So apparently,
one for Brett.
One for me. It's warming up. That's interesting. There's no it's barely warm.
Yeah.
It's getting there. But yeah, the idea was to get one of these. So we have spring break is next week, and then we'll have coming up pretty soon after that dead week where you can't give assignment stuff because it's the week before finals. And so I like to have stuff in the office for the students who are, before and after finals. They can come decompress. And so the idea was, hey, after a test, come relax, make a s'more. We'll have probably our little waffle makers out and maybe some fondue. And I also have a bag full of bubble wrap that kids can go and just sit there and, just so they can, de-stress. I also wanted to get the snow cone maker, but Miranda and Aspen voted me down.
I did, because we had one of those, and I'm quite sure it sat there in the cupboard waiting for 7 years, and it never got used.
Yep.
So this last time we moved, I just gave it to Goodwill.
Oh, give me we didn't put the...
Oh, yeah. I don't think we need those on. But you know what? I think we're going to have to give this to Aspen while we continue on, and she can see how long it's going to take to toast the marshmallow. I mean, I think at this rate, it may take till the end of SALT.
Oh, to actually get it warm enough?
I think it will.
That's...
Because it's not putting out more heat.
Really?
No, that's it for the heat. I think you'd have to take that top thing off and get this thing right there on the burner thing and for it to actually work.
There must be 2 more of these somewhere.
I think it may have to be returned. I don't think your kids can get any toasting of marshmallows out.
It'll be very sad if it's,
Should we give it to Aspen, or should we continue to try roasting?
Give me those 2 things, right, and then I'll at least put it on its platform, and then we can give it to Aspen, and she can monitor it while we continue on. So, if I can figure out how it goes together. 1, 2. Oh. Okay. That. No.
Okay, so just so you know, the marshmallow is still cold.
Well, this was money well spent.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 and 4 and boom, and then I think think this is supposed to go inside it, right?
Mm-hmm. But that's interesting. It doesn't even like fit.
No.
That doesn't even fit. Oh wait, it's upside down.
It's upside down?
No, but this is the feet.
Oh. Ah, you are correct.
Yes, but it still doesn't create a space for this to sit. It just sits on top.
Well, that's weird.
Interesting.
Not the best. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it's
there's
barely.
no heat.
Are you sure it's
couldn't
on?
burn yourself if you touched it.
I mean, there. I can feel. All right. Well, we'll let Aspen
toast
monitor it
marshmallow.
until it gets warm enough, and then we'll come back to our unboxing thing. I don't know if the extension cord's going to reach that far, but we'll at least get it out of the way. So, and there we go. So yes, turns out my what we're talking about today, I should have listened. I was part of my process there. I was listening to my still small voice that was saying, it's one of those catchy things, and it looks cool and sounds cool on the outside, but it's really going to be cheap and not work very well. And I thought, it'll be fine. So we bought it, and now I may regret it.
Yeah, thank goodness for receipts and being able to return things.
Receipts. So. Yes, because some things in life, when you don't listen to that still small voice, don't have receipts, or there is no return policy.
Yeah.
Life doesn't have a return department.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
So last week, I'm out in the kitchen and I had winter squash, and I had this knife, I was chopping away at it, and I got it all, diced up basically, small enough so that I could peel it. Well, ordinarily I would usually use a peeler, which I've done that. But I was already holding this knife, and the peeler really doesn't work that well either. So I thought, I'll just go ahead and use this to peel the squash. And it crossed my mind, what, that's probably not a good idea. You could probably cut yourself. And I don't know why it is, we just blow right past those ideas, right? I mean, what could happen, right? I haven't cut myself in forever. Well, that should have been my first clue, right?
What could go wrong?
Yeah. I don't think, even done peeling my first little chunk of squash when it slipped. And
there was a chunk of finger.
Yeah, cut my thumb, and you got to go get the Band-Aid, otherwise you're gonna bleed all over everything, and so that wasn't any fun. Well,
No.
But I was ready to forget it and move on until the next day. I just happened to be watching a YouTube video about foot and ankle health, and the woman, as her own story, she said she was practicing gymnastics and she was doing flips off the bar, and she knew she should have moved the mat so that when she landed, she'd actually land on the mat instead of the floor. Well, she didn't, she was just too lazy to bend down and move the mat. And so she did a flip off of there, and her foot just lands right on the edge of it, and her foot rolled and twisted it up. She felt like it snapped, and she says she's on all fours in agony over that. And part of the agony being that she knew she should have moved the mat, but she didn't. And so she knew it was her fault. And she said, if you know, like, I should do this, and you ignore it, it's going to turn around and it's going to bite you. And it's true, right? So, yeah, like I said, I promised you Brett would tell you a story like that as well, one of his own personal experiences.
Nope, got nothing.
Yep,
never had,
it's
never
right here.
did have
Right here.
any kind. Oh,
In
that
capital
one.
letters, you put story of getting food poisoning in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So they're right there. You put it in.
Did I?
Yeah.
Did I put that?
You did.
Okay. Well, yes, there is. So
Does it include a big knife?
It doesn't. It probably
Well,
would have
then,
gone better
you know.
than, huh?
It's smoking.
It's smoking?
Yeah.
Oh my. Ah.
Okay, well, it is smoking, but the marshmallow is still cold. Oh, maybe it's supposed to smoke. Do you think?
I don't know. We're going to do something that I don't normally do, and I'm going to have Aspen pull the directions out of the box and actually read them.
The directions.
Yeah, maybe there's something we should have done and didn't do. But yeah, it started to smoke
Yeah.
after I turned it off. But Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, my story is I was working in Hawaii. I was over there for summer, working a summer camp, and we would get the staff would get a different day off, but once we had a break in between camps, and the youth director, who runs summer camps and conferences, he had a house there, and they were staying at the camp, and they said, hey, just you guys can go use the house because we're over there. We stayed one night, and we're going to go around Hawaii the next day, and then head back to camp. So it was just a one night overnight, and so anyway, we got up, and I was really hungry, and we were headed out, and it was going to be like 45 minutes or so, or an hour to go to where we were headed. It was actually the football stadium. They wanted to go there because they have big flea markets in the football stadium out there on Oahu. When they're not football season, and so they always have all this t-shirts and sweatshirts and all kinds of stuff, and it's like really cheap. So instead of you go buying it at the stores or anything, you can go same things at this flea market. Anyway, so I was hungry and I didn't want to wait for an hour, and everybody else was like, no, let's go. So I said, well, I'm just going to make something here real quick, and I just assumed, I got in the fridge and I was like, eggs. I love eggs. I'm going to have eggs, and I pull out the eggs, and for a fleeting moment, there was this voice that said, you should probably check the expiration date on the eggs. And I was like, no, it's the youth director's house. They're not going to have spoiled food in their fridge. And so I made like 3 or 4 eggs. And I mean, it wasn't 15, 20 minutes. And then, it hit. I just started feeling so much pain in my stomach. And it was bad. Honestly, and I've told you guys, it was one of the few times in my life where I honestly believed I was not going to make it. I really thought I was going to die because there was 8 or 9 of us, and all the other ones. And even I was dating a girl there at the time, and they were all like, are you okay? I was like, no, you guys go without me. Okay. And out they go. And she didn't even ask, are you sure? She was the first one out the door. Obviously, that relationship didn't last, and I'm so happy that it didn't last because Miranda would not have left me there to die.
That's right. Yeah.
And so they were all gone. I was at the house, and this is before cell phones or anything, and I couldn't move, and I literally really thought I was going to die. And they came back eventually, and it was at night. They were on all day long, and by the time they got back, and it was like 9 or 10 that night, I had sort of turned a corner and realized I was getting better. But I spent the entire day just in utter. If you've ever had food poisoning, real food poisoning, you just want to end it and just take me, don't, end the suffering. And it was like that. But all because there was that, little baggy one. I can still remember hearing it. Like, you better check the date on those eggs. And I was like, I don't want to wait. I want to go ahead and eat.
Oops. And now you're a much wiser person.
I'm a much wiser person.
And you don't do anything like that. And
no,
never since
ever
then.
again.
No, I can think of I can think of one time. When that furniture dropped off the back of the vehicle. He had heard the little voice say, maybe you should check that.
Yeah.
It's to make sure the furniture back there is tightened down. And he's like, nah, it'll be fine. And so I was following him in a different vehicle. And we just got asked for some bedroom furniture.
It was a bedroom set.
Yeah, And the armoire just slipped right off, and I was skidding right on down the
the cool part was it didn't tumble. It literally slid off and dropped.
Slid right on it. Slid on the top part of it.
Top part of it didn't tumble or anything. So there was that.
Yeah, but it had road rash forever after.
I'm sure angels were holding on to it, going, this is going to be a really great illustration for them to use sometime about how not to be stupid.
Yeah. Yep. So anyways, those are physical stories of that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But, there are spiritual times in our lives, too, when we may hear that little voice that says, that may not be the best idea. Or, maybe you should do such and such instead. Mm-hmm. But I hate to admit it, we blow past those times more often than we would like to remember. And we end up complaining or worrying or lying or living out lies, basically injuring ourselves. Yeah.
And it just, it's so many times we think of that, still small voice, and we don't listen to it, and things can go horribly wrong. Sometimes minorly wrong, sometimes horribly wrong. But to look at examples in the Bible, there's Abraham and Hagar.
Yes, and so we're still on Abraham, drawing analogies to his life, and I'm finding it fun. I hope you guys are too.
There's so many perspectives and things you can take from one person's life.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So to help illustrate our story, we are going to talk just a little bit about the pearl of great price. Okay, so pearls are created because a irritant of some sort, probably a piece of sand, gets inside that mollusk, and then the mollusk secretes the nacre, the mother of pearl, one layer at a time, and over the course of possibly even up to several years, the pearl is created. Now, when the irritant comes into our life, in order to create the pearl, we must give up our right to be right, our right to be perfect, our do more and have more, do more and be more, do more and have more in order to be more.
You can do it.
I can.
You can do it.
Way of living. I mean, that's not the way to create a pearl in our lives. Okay.
When the irritant, you think about irritants in your life, what kinds of, because a little piece of sand gets in, and it's just a tiny little grain of sand, and it gets into the mollusk. You said mollusk, clam, whatever, and
oyster.
Yeah, the oyster.
Yeah.
And clams, the poor man's oyster, and over time, the mother of pearl gets created a little bit in years, and it comes a pearl, right? But think about the little things that get into our hearts and minds that are the irritants of our life, and you said the need to be right, and that a lot of times the things that nag at us are the times where we feel, somebody's wronged us, or something, life has been unfair to us in some way, and I need to win this argument, I need to be right, or I deserve this, or I deserve that, and it's little irritants that just eat away at us. And it can have, the one or two effects, that we're talking about is it, smooths over and it creates something beautiful out of something negative.
Right. And so basically, I mean, that oyster, when that irritant came into his life, I mean, now technically speaking, it wouldn't have happened, but, it could have, instead of creating the pearl, we tend to say, we might yell at it, we might get angry at it, we might avoid it, we might take up our workaholism or whatever, just whatever it is that we do that is not creating the pearl. And so basically, when an irritant enters our life, we are to give up our right to complain, our right to worry, our right to lie, our right to believe lies, our right to worship other gods besides God, the God of heaven. So basically, we don't want to, because this requires putting aside self and being humble. We think that we must stoop down to humility, when in reality, humility reaches down to us and pulls us up into her presence. But once we are there, we are now in the land of equality, the place where all are equal, the rich, the poor, the tall, the short, those who can do algebra and those who can't, those who can play basketball and those who can't, all are equal. And this is a land of peace because there is no more constantly fighting for ourselves to be number one. No more need to do more and have more to be more. When an irritant comes into our lives, we are to cover it with the works of Jesus. We are to cover it with that nacre and the mother of pearl, one layer at a time. And this is where our weaknesses become a strength.
Yeah, you can consider the covering the mother of pearl as to covering the irritants in our life with grace or forgiveness or love or whatever the situation or thing calls for. Right. That would be the layering it to make it something beautiful.
Doing it, covering it with the works of Jesus rather than our own works, and then that's the strength of Jesus rather than our weakness.
Yeah. Yep. Well, an example that we were pulling from real life was like my parents divorced when just after I got out of high school. So there was one of those times where, we're going to wait for the kids to get through high school and then we'll divorce, which is never, I shouldn't say never, but is rarely a good idea. But anyway, so I got there and my parents divorced. And for whatever, it really hit me hard. Like my brother and sister, I'm sure, it wasn't fun for them either. But I'm told they knew it was coming. Oh, they knew they were going to get, and I had no idea. Apparently I was clueless. And it was one of the things where, like, afterwards, I was talking to one of my friends from Pisgah, from high school, and I was just talking about it. I was like, man, I can't believe my parents are divorced. And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I just didn't see this coming. She's like, Brett, we all saw this coming. I'm like, what do you mean we all? It's like everybody at school. It's like everyone at school knew my parents were going to divorce, but me? Did anybody think maybe we should say something? But they said, we just thought you guys knew and thought you were dealing with it pretty well. I'm like, no, I didn't know. Anyway, so I tell you that because I think that's probably why it hit me maybe a little harder than my brother and sister, because it kind of came out of the blue. But it was interesting. I even look back today and I still don't understand my reactions completely because I can't say that I just got mad or furious or angry or whatever. I just stopped talking to him. Like, I didn't call my mom. I didn't call my dad. And it was just something kind of in the back of my mind and my heart, for years, that just, kept nagging at me. And I didn't outwardly have an emotional reaction to it. People would say, well, where's your home? And I was like, I don't really have, I would say that I don't have a home. My car is my home. I can get everything in my car. And I did for like 2 years, instead of going home, I would ask kids, like, I would put up signs, or I'd look for people to put up signs. Because back then, when it was, I guess, safer to do this, people would say, hey, anybody going to Iowa, anybody going to Michigan, they would need a ride home over spring break and stuff. And I would take them. I'd say, I'll take you anywhere you want to go. All you got to do is, put me up and feed me while I'm there. And I won't charge you for gas or anything. And so some kids would do it. I was like, well, sure. And they took me home for spring break, And it was great because they did it. And I would just get in the car and I would, wherever I was at, I would just go explore the country. Because a lot of times it was people I didn't know. I just stayed at their house and, had fun and then dropped them back to school. So I did this, and it was eventually somewhere, probably 2 years later or so, that I don't even know why I was at my dad's house, but we finally had it out. I would just, all the pent up, which I assume was suppressed anger and rage over everything, that I just exploded, blew up at my dad. I just yelled, and it all came, it was really one of those things where everything came just rushing out of my mouth, and I just ranted for like 3 minutes or more. And he had, probably the best reaction he could. He just listened, he took it all in, he didn't deny anything, didn't try to explain anything, didn't try to justify or rationalize, and I finally ended up with the whole, I don't even know who you are, you're just a man to me, you're not your father, and so, he's like, well, I'm sorry you feel like that because you'll always be my son, and, hug me. And then, when he hugged me, the whole thing broke and da-da-da. And it was a healing moment. And after that, once I'd gotten it out, then healing could take place. Which on a side note was really interesting because years later, I was at this recovery center, and one of the things they do is you deal with your childhood trauma and you deal with it. And they wanted me to do this anger work at my dad because, the stuff that had happened growing up. And I tried to say, yeah, I kind of already did that. And you're like, no, you didn't. I actually really did, and I explained this is what happened. And I didn't, because they want you to scream and yell at a, chair and beat the chair with a bat and stuff like that. And I'm not downing it. It works for some people when you can't actually get to the person where you need to direct anger at. They're not available anymore. You can do that and it's cathartic. But my dad was there. So I don't need a pillow. I did it to the man. I actually did this, and for the life of it, they would not believe me. So in the end, they saved me for the very last. It was the last hour we were all there. And they go, and Brett's got to do his anger. So I took a bat. I'm like, bad dad. The chair like twice and threw right there. I'm done. Anyway, I don't know why I told you that story. Oh, because the irritant for so long that not dealing with it was just an irritant, always in the back. And I had to deal with it.
So you were dealing with it in your own way at first, And then afterwards, after you talked to your dad and everything, then
Yeah.
after that, you were able to have healing.
Yeah,
And,
I'd say dealing with it by not dealing with it and
Yeah.
covering with
Right, we do.
other
we,
stuff.
We ignore
Ignore
people or the thing, the situation.
And I
such.
did some drinking and drugs back then, and that was kind of to cover the pain and all
Mm-hmm.
that. So yeah, I was dealing with it by not dealing with it, but really, yeah, anesthetizing the pain. Yeah, it wasn't until you confronted with it, and there was love in response to that, and that's what actually, made the healing
Right,
possible.
which is how God treats us.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically this is also like the parable of the vineyard, where Jesus is the vine and we are the branches, and God is the gardener. So who prunes the plants and does all the gardening things, help the plant grow, right? And produce fruit. And so the fruit produced then is not ours, but God's, and it is his treasure that gets stored up in heaven. And that's like this pearl, and the pearls in our lives basically. I mean, this is not our treasure then, it's his, because it was covered with his works and not our own.
Interesting about the grapes, like the analogy that you say there. The father prunes his grapes. You're the vine, and it's interesting he uses that, because if you don't really think about it, because Jesus had been talking to people who knew how to do a vineyard. I mean, it wasn't just to people who didn't run a vineyard. There were people that in his audience that knew what they were doing to grow grapes for wine, and it's one of those where Jesus was telling stories that he knew his people would understand the depth of the allegory he was giving. So if you're in Napa Valley and you watch this, you may know what I'm about to say. To get grapes for wine, you think, plant a grapevine and grapes will come up and we'll have great wine or grape juice. And it's not so easy. It's really a long process of taking the vines, and it says training the vines and the branches to where to grow and how to grow. And it's the first year, the second year, the third year are really not. They throw the grapes out because they're not of the quality to be able to make good wine. And in fact, the idea is they had to let them grow and then cut them back, and let them grow and cut them back. And sometimes they'll take it and they'll cut it right down to the stump. And then they've spent a whole year, growing this vine, and then they'll cut it back and make it grow again and grow again. And only in that process do they end, usually at about 7 years, do they have the really, they have trained the vine to do what they need it to do, and it produces the grapes that are, the best for making juice and wine. But it's a long process of bringing. And so when he says, I'm the vine, you the branches, he's talking about not just a one, he's talking about the process of your life and how I train you over your life, and I cut things back here and you grow here. It's a long process.
Yeah, and the grapes produced at that point in time are certainly there because of the gardener, not because of anything that the vine did.
Right.
Because the vine on its own would have produced subpar grapes.
If you just let it grow, it would just been
Right.
it would never been, very good.
Right, and so therefore it is God's fruit and not our own.
Yeah.
And so basically for us, our treasure stored up in heaven is a relationship with Jesus, because it is only with that relationship with Jesus, that any fruit is produced or any pearls are created.
Yeah.
So anyways, when God opens us up, basically, let's pretend we're that oyster, right, and looks inside of us, does he find that pearl of great price? Does he find a relationship with Jesus where all our treasures are stored up in heaven? Or are our hearts littered full of the treasures of this earth, creating not light, but darkness in our lives? So how does this relate to the story of Abraham?
Not at all. It doesn't even relate remotely to Abraham. Yes, it does, actually. It relates to Abraham very well. You want me to do it?
Sure, you can tell this part if you'd like to.
I have to do it, Randa, because I read it, but I don't remember. Abraham, as he traveled around, he was known, I tell you, as a righteous man. So certainly in his business dealings, he was known to be truthful and not cheating. And he was known for being patient. Oh, he was definitely known for being patient of all the things he had to go through. He was known as the man who built an altar to God whenever he stopped to stay for a while. which is what I really like about Abraham. Whenever he had an experience with God, he built an altar to commemorate that. And so, people could see these altars, and like long after Abraham was gone, you can see on the kids like, Daddy, why is that pile of rocks? Let me tell you about Abraham, this man who was close to God, and it was, evangelistic. He didn't take the spoils of battle. And he didn't take spoils of battle because, you told me that.
Right. He didn't want someone else to be able to say, I helped make Abraham great. It was only God who would get that glory.
Yeah. So it was a whole, Abraham was only rich because he came in and won this war, and I gave him all this gold and cattle and everything. And he wanted to know any riches he had came from God and God alone, which I thought was pretty cool. And yet, like all of us humans, God was busy pruning the vineyard of Abraham's life and cultivating it. And he had opportunities for his weaknesses to become his strength, which he sometimes did and sometimes didn't, His weaknesses to produce pearls rather than complaining or worrying or covetousness of the living out of more lies.
Take, for example, the times he lied about Sarah.
Yeah.
And such,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he had opportunity, and there was things God had to prune away. Again, training the vine to grow grapes. He was training Abraham, to produce faith.
Yeah, and those times where it must have crossed his mind where this may not be such a good idea.
Yeah.
Particularly with Hagar,
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a couple times that he tells Sarah, well, I only did this because you said I should. And so surely he must have thought before he did that, maybe this wasn't the best idea.
Yeah. That was one of those things where you had to say, look, Sarah, all due respect, anytime you have to say something to your wife and you preface it with all due respect, you've already lost. Don't even go there.
Okay, so he passed on blame to others, just like in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, because that's what we were saying, and it came out and things went south. So they're like, you took my, servant, you had a child. Well, you're the one who, told me to, and in a certain sense, they were both like, well, if God hadn't waited so long, we wouldn't have been in this mess. And it just reminded me, it's just like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, when they came in, oh, where are you guys? Well, the woman you gave me, well, the snake you made gave me, and they both blamed each other and God as well for their mistakes, which is kind of what Abraham and Sarah did.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and just a quick little wrap here. All too often, pride just cheerfully and happily leads its captives, human captives, to their eternal deaths. And they go willingly, little realizing how they have traded eternal life for a moment's self-satisfaction, for a moment of revenge, for a moment of hate, for a moment of worldly pleasure.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, we just kind of blow right past that. Are you sure that's a good idea? And we have our moments of, revenge and self-satisfaction, worldly pleasure, and yet...
Jacob and Esau.
Yeah.
Esau trading his birthright for a moment of satisfaction. Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. Different perspectives and things we can learn from Abraham and life. And, just like Abraham and I'm sure Sarah and Hagar, God's going to train us, and he's going to, sometimes we're going to grow in some ways, and sometimes he's going to prune and cut things out of our lives and grow other things, and it's all a process of him working so that we become the best people God created us to be. And so rejoice in the challenges of life, rejoice in the hard times, have faith, because those are the things that, if we believe the Bible, those are the things that fall into the category of all things work together for those who love God.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, Miranda, what are we talking about next week?
Well, what we were going to talk about this week.
It's one of my favorite subjects.
Oh, so what are we talking about next
Well,
week?
it involves acting in theater.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So probably that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And we may have a report on the s'mores maker, which at the moment...
is going straight back to Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, because It didn't heat up, and it smoked when we turned it off. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for joining us, and please let us know in the comments which side of the camp you fall on: charred marshmallows for s'mores, or perfectly toastedly, evenly browned marshmallows.
But see, charred ones are perfectly toasted.
Oh my gosh, you and Aspen both. I remember when she was younger, she would stick it in the fire. Whoosh, hey, Daddy, yeah. I'm like, no. Anyway. All right. Well, hope you had a good Sabbath, and we will wish you a great week.